Good morning, class 6. We have to continue with the chapter New Empires and Kingdoms. We have already started with the chapter in which we have talked about Samudragupta. We have talked about the different places. You will be taking the map of India and marking the places like Patliputra, Nalanda, Prayag, Kannauj, Mathura. Nalanda, Prayag, Patliputra, Kannauj, Mathura, Thanesar, Ujjain, Ahore. So 6 places to 7 places. I will be giving it to you in writing also. Please mark them and paste them where you have done the chapter in your notebook and practice it as well. We have talked about Vikram Samvat. Then we have to start. We have discussed about Pallavas, Chalukyas and Pulakesan too, how he had disallowed or he didn't let Harsha to overcome the southern part. Today we will be starting with a new kind of army. Like earlier rulers, some of these kings maintained a well organized army with elephants, chariots, cavalry, foot soldiers. Besides, there were military leaders who provided the king with troops whenever he needed them. They were not paid regular salaries. Instead, some of them received grants of land. They collected revenue from the land and used this to maintain soldiers and horses and provide equipment for warfare. These men were known as Samantas. Whenever the ruler was weak, Samanta tried to become independent. So, what was happening here that initially the king maintained a well organized army for himself with the king, with the elephants, the chariot, the foot soldiers, everybody was there. Then they had their military leaders who also had certain troops, and if required, they provided those troops to the ruler. They were not paid as such any regular salary for it, but instead they received a land grant. That means a land was given, and whatever revenue was collected from that land, it was used by them for the maintenance of the army, the soldiers, and whatever was required to equip themselves with the warfare. So they were known as the Samantas. And if the Samanta found that the ruler was weak enough, then he declared himself to be independent. Assemblies in southern kingdom. The inscriptions of the Pallavas mention a number of local assemblies. These included the Sabha, which was an assembly of Brahmin landowners. This assembly functioned through subcommittees which looked after irrigation, agricultural operations, making roads, local temples, etc. So, the inscriptions of the Pallav rulers that mention shows us that there were lot of many local assemblies that included the Sabha, and they had the Brahmin landowners. The owners of those land were the Brahmins, and this assembly functioned through the subcommittees. They have their own subcommittees which looked after the different work like irrigation, agricultural operation. They were responsible for making roads, local temples, etc. The Ur was a village assembly found in area where the landowners were not Brahmins. So you can see that here the landowners, they were not the Brahmins, and the Nagaram was an organization of merchants. It is likely that these assemblies were controlled by rich and powerful landowners and merchants. Many of these local assemblies continue to function for centuries. So, many local assemblies, they continue to work for centuries. They after them, it was, since it was maybe by continued by their son, grandson, and so on. Ordinary people in the kingdom. We can catch an occasional glimpse of the lives of ordinary people from plays and other accounts. Let us look at some of these. Kalidas is known for his plays depicting life in the king's court. An interesting feature about these plays is that the king and most Brahmins were shown as speaking Sanskrit, while women and men other than the king and Brahmins used Prakrit. So Prakrit, which was the language of common people, they were using Prakrit, whereas king and Brahmin, showing their importance, they used the language that was Sanskrit. His most famous play, Abhijan Shakuntalam, is the story of the love between a king named Dushyant and a young woman named Shakuntala. We find an interesting description of the plight of a poor fisherman in this play. So, a fisherman finds a ring. This story, it's a very interesting story. I hope many of you must have seen it or heard about it. A fisherman found a precious ring which the king had given to Shakuntala, but which had been accidentally swallowed by a fish. When he went to the palace with it, the gateman accused him of theft, and the chief police officer were rather rude. However, the king was happy when he saw the ring and sent a reward for the fisherman. Then the police officer and the gateman decided to take a share of the reward and went along with the fisherman to have a drink. Do you think that if a poor man finds something and reports this to police, he would be treated like this today? Name a famous man who taught in Prakrit and a king who issued inscriptions in Prakrit. So, you all know that Gautam Buddha, he taught in the common language, that was Prakrit, and Ashoka had the inscriptions written in Prakrit because he felt that this was the language of the common people, and if the inscriptions will be written in the language which common people can understand, then only they will be following, then only they will be able to comprehend what the king wants to say, right. So, the Chinese pilgrim Pa Shen noticed the plight of those who were treated as untouchables by the high and mighty. They were expected to live on the outskirts of the city. He writes, if such a man enters a town or a marketplace, he strikes a piece of wood in order to keep himself separate. People hearing this sound know what it means and avoid touching him or brushing against him. And Banabhat provides us with a vivid picture of king's army on the move. So with the Chinese pilgrim, he gave us a glimpse that how much discrimination was there, that if a person belonging to particular group, he had to enter the city, or first of all they had to live on the outskirts of the city, and if they were entering the city or town or the marketplace, they have to beat the wood or something, so that people could come to know and they would leave the way for him, so that do not by mistake or by chance also they will not get in touch with him. The king's army. The king travelled with an enormous amount of equipment. Apart from weapons, there were things of daily use such as pots, pans, furniture, golden footstools, food, including animals such as goat, deer, rabbits, vegetables, spices, carried on carts or loaded on to packed animals such as camels and elephants. This huge army was accompanied by musicians beating drums and other playing horns and trumpets. So, you can see when the king was traveling, it was like it involved like lot of things have to be moved with him, along with weapons had to be carried with them. They had to take pots, pans, like so that they can cook at certain places, furniture. So a lot of things had to be carried whenever the king was on move. This huge army was accompanied by musicians beating drums and other playing horns and trumpets. Villagers had to provide hospitality along the way. They came with gifts of curds, gur, and flowers and provided fodder for the animals. They also tried to meet the king and place their complaints and petitions before him. So, when the king was moving on the way, if whichever villages he crossed, the villagers from those villages, they provided hospitality They provided the army or the like people with the curd, gourd, flowers, and the animals were given the fodder. And sometimes they tried to meet the king and raise their complaint if they had any or the petitions. The army left a trail of destruction behind. Elephants often trampled down the huts of villagers, and the oxen yoked to the caravans of merchants run away scared by the tumult. As Banabhat says, the whole world was swallowed up in dust. So obviously if so many people are on a move, so the appearance, as Banabhat has said, that it appeared as if everything has been swallowed by the dust, because when elephants and all the animals they were moving, it appeared as if only dust is all around. Now elsewhere, find Arabia on map 6. Although it is a desert, it is at the hub of communication for centuries. In fact, Arab merchants and sailors played an important role in the sea trade between India and Europe. See page 92. Others who lived in Arabia were the Bedouins, pastoral tribes depending mainly on camel, hardy animals that could survive in the desert. Around 1400 years ago, Prophet Muhammad introduced a new religion, Islam, in Arabia. Like Christianity, Islam was a religion that laid stress on the equality and unity of all before Allah, the one supreme God. Here is a verse from Quran, the sacred book of Islam. For Muslim men and women, for believing men and women, for devout men and women, for true men and women, for men and women who are patient and constant, for men and women who humble themselves, for men and women who give in charity, for men and women who fast, for men and women who guard their chastity, and for men and women who engage much in Allah's remembrance. For them has Allah prepared forgiveness and great reward. Within 100 years, Islam spread to North Africa, Spain, Iran, India. Arab sailors who were already familiar with the coastal settlements of the subcontinent now brought the new religion with them. Arab soldiers conquered Sindh in present day Pakistan about 1300 years ago. Trace the routes. Okay, so that's all for today's class. Please take a map, mark all the places I have told you. I will send it in the Google Classroom as well. Paste that map in your notebook. Thank you, class. Take care of yourselves. Be safe at home.